So, what is universal basic capital? Universal basic income is the idea that we give people money monthly, whether through the federal government or state governments or through nonprofits or through cryptocurrencies, decentralized systems, crypto UBI, universal basic income. So, universal basic capital, UBC, is something I've heard about recently. In the last year, approximately, I believe the federal government has bought into Intel, the chip maker, Intel. And with news of Anthropic and OpenAI possibly going public or likely going public, I heard a new term, universal basic capital. Now, I've heard rumors, perhaps more than rumors, perhaps just rumors, that the federal government might try to buy a piece of Anthropic or OpenAI. Now, unless I'm mistaken, I believe President Donald Trump, has signed an executive order to explore or create a sovereign wealth fund for the United States. Now, if I'm wrong about that, please let me know in the comments. So, universal basic capital could potentially be a way for Americans to live more prosperous lives. It might look something like the Alaska Oil Dividend Fund. Now, that is sort of more of a universal basic income that is provided once a year, but it might look like that in the sense that all Americans could have a stake in AI. AI is a rather interesting technology and it's advancing rather quickly. There has been talk by people who are part of the AI hyperscalers like Anthropic and OpenAI about AI eliminating jobs. You can also listen to the podcast Moonshots with Peter Diamandis, and they talk about these dynamics and the economics and the technology. It's rather interesting. So, a federal universal basic income seems potentially a bit unrealistic for a variety of reasons, politically, economically, from a libertarian perspective, it may cause problems. But regardless, we need better social safety nets. So if there was a universal basic capital, UBC, now if somebody was making poor choices as it relates to substances that are generally making it difficult to be a functional adult, hard substances, whether it be fentanyl or meth or so on and so forth. If we had universal basic capital, would they be able to just cash out and squander their basic capital? I sort of assume not. And if that's the case, wouldn't it function just more like a universal basic income? Perhaps a UBC could lead to universal basic services, but regardless, people being irresponsible can create all sorts of problems, whether under a universal basic income system or so on and so forth. But I think the idea of universal basic capital is an interesting idea, and comparing and contrasting it to universal basic income, I think, is interesting and worth thinking about. We definitely need stronger social safety nets. I've promoted the idea of having a semi privatized universal basic income, whether through credit unions or other novel methods and means. So, what do you think about universal basic capital? Is it like a sovereign wealth fund? Have you heard more details than me? Leave a comment, make a video, at me on social media. But yeah, universal basic capital compared to universal basic income. I'm trying to learn more about UBC because I think it's interesting. Everything is moving so fast, it's hard to know where things will be in 1 or 2 or 5 years, but hopefully we'll be in a better place. And hopefully AI will help contribute to abundance and post scarcity and not any of the bad alternatives. So, anyway, yeah, I think it's worth thinking about and worth talking about. Limitless peace.